If you're over 60 and you feel stiff when you get out of a chair, do not dismiss it as just getting older. Stiffness is not only an uncomfortable feeling, it can become the reason your steps shorten, your balance gets cautious, your shoulders stop reaching, and your world quietly shrinks. The mistake is thinking flexibility is only about touching your toes. That is a child's definition. After 60, flexibility matters because it protects function. Can your ankle bend enough for stairs? Can your hip extend enough for a real stride? Can your upper back rotate enough to turn without twisting the lower back? Can your shoulder reach a cabinet without pain or compensation? Can your hands and wrists still grip, open, carry, and support you? Those are not circus tricks. Those are independence questions. Before we go deeper, one safety point matters. Sudden weakness, numbness, severe pain, chest pressure, dizziness, a recent fall, new loss of bladder or bowel control, or pain that travels sharply down the leg or arm should be checked. If you have advanced osteoporosis, joint replacement, severe arthritis, spinal stenosis, neuropathy, unstable blood pressure, or a condition that limits movement, adapt this with a clinician or physical therapist. The goal is not to force range. The goal is to keep useful motion alive. There is a difference between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is how far a tissue can lengthen. Mobility is whether you can use that range with control, strength, and confidence. After 60, mobility matters more than loose stretching. A joint that moves far but has no control is not necessarily useful. A joint that never moves far enough starts stealing motion from somewhere else. That is how compensation begins. If the ankle is stiff, the knee or hip may work harder. If the hip is stiff, the lower back may twist more. If the upper back is stiff, the neck and shoulders may overwork. If the shoulder is stiff, the body may arch the back to reach. If the hands are stiff, simple tasks become negotiations. That is why I care about 5 areas. If this kind of explanation helps you understand your body more clearly, subscribe to Feynman's Body Code. And if you're comfortable, write your age and country in the comments. Plus, which area feels stiffest for you? Ankles, hips, back, shoulders, or hands? I want to see where this pattern shows up in real bodies, not only in diagrams. Area 1 is the ankle and foot. This is the area people ignore until walking starts changing. The ankle is not just a hinge below the leg. It is a steering and shock-absorbing system. Every step asks the ankle to bend, stiffen, push, and correct. When ankle mobility fades, the body usually does not stop walking immediately. It shortens the step. It turns the foot outward. It lifts the heel early. It makes stairs feel less clean. It makes balance more fragile because the ankle reaction is smaller. A stiff ankle can make the knee and hip solve problems they did not create. That is why the ankle is the first gatekeeper of mobility. A useful ankle needs 2 things. It needs enough bend to let the knee travel forward during stairs, squats, and walking. And it needs enough control to push the ground without collapsing. You can test it gently. Can your knee move forward toward the toes while the heel stays down? Can you raise your heels with control? Can you shift weight through the foot without the arch disappearing completely? This is not about forcing the ankle. It is about reminding the foot and ankle that they still have jobs. Area 2 is the hips. The hips are where walking gets its stride. When hips lose extension, the step behind you disappears. The body then walks more from the knees and lower back. That can make walking look smaller, tighter, and more careful. Hip mobility affects the chair too. To stand up, the hips must fold, load, and extend. If they do not fold well, sitting becomes awkward. If they do not extend well, standing in stairs feel heavier. If they do not rotate well, turning can drift into the knees or lower back. This is why tight hips can pretend to be knee pain or back stiffness. The hip is a large joint, but its loss can be quiet. You may notice it as shorter steps. You may notice it as trouble getting into a car. You may notice it as difficulty tying shoes. You may notice it as stiffness after sitting. A useful hip habit should include folding, extending, and rotating. Not aggressively. Deliberately. Gentle hip hinges teach folding. Supported step backs teach extension. Small, controlled rotations teach the joint that turning belongs in the hip, not only in the spine. Area 3 is the upper back and rib cage. This one surprises people. They think mobility is mostly legs, but the upper back decides how you stand, breathe, turn, and reach. If the upper back rounds forward and becomes rigid, the head moves forward. The shoulders lose space. The neck works harder. The lower back may twist more because the upper back stopped rotating. Even breathing can become shallower when the rib cage stops moving well. This is not just posture for appearance. It is mechanics. A mobile upper back lets the chest open. The ribs expand, the shoulders move, and the body turn without stealing from the lower back. A stiff upper back makes many movements more expensive. You may feel it when backing out of a parking space. You may feel it when reaching across a table. You may feel it when looking over the shoulder. You may feel it when raising the arms overhead. A useful upper back habit should include extension and rotation. Extension means the chest can open without the lower back doing all the arching. Rotation means the rib cage can turn instead of locking the whole torso. Small seated rotations can help. Gentle chest opening can help. Breathing with rib movement can help. The point is not to crack the spine. The point is to restore options. Area 4 is the shoulder and shoulder blade. The shoulder is not only the ball and socket joint. It is also the shoulder blade sliding on the rib cage. If the shoulder blade does not move well, the arm often pays the price. If the upper back is stiff, the shoulder also loses space. This is why reaching overhead can become a whole body negotiation. You arch the back, you shrug the neck, you twist the torso, you avoid the top shelf. Eventually, the shoulder's world becomes smaller. Shoulder mobility protects reaching, dressing, bathing, lifting a pan, putting away dishes, and using the arms during balance reactions. That last part matters. When you stumble, the arms often help restore balance. If shoulders are stiff and painful, the body may have fewer ways to save itself. A useful shoulder habit should include reaching, opening, and shoulder blade motion. Wall slides can teach overhead motion. Gentle doorway opening can teach chest and shoulder space. Scapular squeezes or circles can remind the shoulder blade to move. The movement should feel controlled, not pinching. Sharp pain is information, not a challenge to defeat. Area 5 is the hands and wrists. This area looks small, but it decides many daily freedoms. Hands button shirts, hands open jars, hands hold railings, hands carry bags. Hands catch the body when balance fails. Hands let you cook, clean, write, drive, use tools, and stay useful in your own home. When hands and wrists stiffen, life becomes slower and more dependent. People often treat hand stiffness as a small annoyance, but the hand is the body's interface with the world. If the interface fails, independence becomes harder. Useful hand mobility is not only stretching the fingers backward, it is opening and closing fully. It is wrist extension for pushing up from a chair or counter. It is rotation for turning keys and opening lids. It is grip endurance for carrying, and it is finger coordination for small tasks. A useful hand habit can be simple. Open the fingers wide, close into a gentle fist, circle the wrists. Turn the palms up and down, practice a light grip and release. Again, the goal is not forceful stretching. The goal is to keep the map alive. Now let us connect the 5 areas. The ankle gives you the first contact with the ground. The hip gives you stride and rising power. The upper back gives you posture, rotation, and breathing space. The shoulder gives you reach and arm reaction. The hands give you grip and control of the world. Together they form a mobility chain. When one link stiffens, the others compensate. Compensation is useful for a day, but if it becomes your permanent movement strategy, the body gets more expensive to operate. This is why stiffness spreads. A stiff ankle changes the hip. A stiff hip changes the back. A stiff upper back changes the shoulder and neck. A stiff shoulder changes how you reach and balance. A stiff hand changes how confidently you interact with daily objects. The body is connected whether we like it or not. Now, there is a mistake I want you to avoid. Do not wait until a joint becomes painful before you give it motion. Motion is information. When a joint moves through a safe range, the brain updates the map. When a joint stops moving, the brain may begin to treat that range as unavailable. That is how a small stiffness becomes a smaller life. The second mistake is forcing mobility like a fight. Older joints often respond better to patient exposure than to aggression. A little range repeated often can be more useful than one dramatic stretch. The third mistake is stretching without strength. If you gain range but never learn to control it, the body may not trust it. Useful mobility needs control at the edge. That means slow movement, light strength, and balance with support when needed. Now let us make a simple daily scan. For the ankles, ask, did I bend, push, and balance through the foot today? For the hips, ask, did I fold, extend, and rotate today? For the upper back, ask, did I open, breathe, and turn today? For the shoulders, ask, did I reach and move the shoulder blades today? For the hands, ask, did I open, grip, rotate, and release today? That is not a workout plan. It is a maintenance map. A few minutes can remind the body that these areas still belong to you. But if an area is painful, unstable, numb, or rapidly worsening, do not guess your way through it. Get the pattern checked. Mobility work should make daily movement clearer, not scarier. Now let us make the audit more useful. Most people only notice mobility when it becomes pain. That is late. A better approach is to notice small changes while they are still small. The first sign is asymmetry. If one ankle bends less than the other, your walking may begin to rotate around the stiff side. If one hip turns less, the knee or back may begin to take the motion. If one shoulder reaches less, the neck may start helping too much. The body can hide asymmetry for a long time, but compensation has a cost. The second sign is avoidance. You stop using the bottom cabinet. You stop kneeling. You stop looking over your shoulder. You stop reaching overhead. You stop carrying with one hand. Avoidance feels practical, but it teaches the body that the range is no longer needed. The third sign is speed. When a movement becomes stiff, people often do it faster to get it over with. They drop into the chair. They swing the leg into the car. They yank the shoulder into a jacket. They twist the whole body instead of rotating smoothly. Speed can hide poor control. Slowing down reveals what the joint can actually do. The fourth sign is breath holding. If you hold your breath to tie a shoe, stand up, reach, or turn, the body may be treating the movement as a threat. Useful mobility should gradually become calmer. You should be able to breathe while moving. The fifth sign is next day stiffness. A little awareness is normal when you ask the body for a new range. But sharp pain, swelling, numbness, or worsening function means the dose is wrong. Mobility is a dose, not a battle. Too little dose and nothing changes. Too much dose and the body protects itself by becoming tighter. The useful zone is gentle challenge plus control. Now let us build a weekly mobility map. You do not need to stretch for an hour. You need the 5 areas to receive reminders. On a walking day, pay attention to ankles and hips. Before the walk, gently move the ankles. After the walk, notice whether the hips feel open enough for a real stride. On a strength day, pay attention to hips, shoulders, and hands. A chair rise checks hip fold and extension. A carry checks grip and shoulder organization. A wall push-up checks wrist and shoulder tolerance. On a balance day, pay attention to ankles, feet, and upper back. The feet read the floor. The ankles correct the sway. The upper back lets the head and eyes orient without stiffening the whole body. That is how mobility connects with balance. A stiff body can be a frightened body. A body with options feels safer. This is why range of motion should not be separated from real movement. The ankle range should show up in the step. The hip range should show up in the chair and stride. The upper back range should show up in turning and breathing. The shoulder range should show up in reaching and carrying. The hand range should show up in gripping and releasing. If a stretch does not eventually improve a real movement, question it. That does not mean every stretch must be dramatic. It means the goal is function. Now, here's a simple 5-minute scan. Minute 1, ankles. Circle the ankles, shift weight, and do a few controlled heel raises near support. Minute 2, hips. Hinge gently. Step 1 foot back with support and rotate the hip in a small range. Minute 3, upper back. Sit tall, breathe into the ribs, and rotate gently without forcing the lower back. Minute 4, shoulders. Slide the arms on a wall or reach gently while the shoulder blades move. Minute 5, hands and wrists. Open, close, rotate, grip lightly, and release. This is not a cure-all. It is a scan. It tells you what needs more attention. Some days the ankle will be the clue, some days the hip will be the clue. Some days the shoulder will be the clue. The body changes from day to day. The scan keeps the conversation open. There is another reason this matters after 60. Mobility and strength feed each other. If you cannot access a range, you cannot strengthen it well. If you never strengthen a range, you may stop trusting it. That is why passive stretching alone can disappoint people. They gain a little temporary looseness, but daily movement does not change. A better plan pairs motion with light control. Move the ankle, then use it in a step. Move the hip, then use it in a chair rise. Move the upper back, then use it in a turn. Move the shoulder, then use it in a reach. Move the hand, then use it in a grip. That is how mobility becomes useful. It travels from the floor to daily life. And daily life is the test that matters. Here is the clean model. Flexibility is range. Mobility is range you can use. After 60, protect the 5 gates, ankles for walking and balance, hips for stride, stairs and chairs, upper back and ribs for posture, breathing and turning, shoulders for reaching and reacting, hands and wrists for gripping, carrying, and controlling the world. Do not chase extreme flexibility. Chase useful motion. Useful motion is smooth. Useful motion is controlled. Useful motion shows up in the day. It helps you stand, walk, turn, reach, carry, cook, dress, and stay engaged. That is the point. Not to become bendy. To keep access to your own life. So if you're losing flexibility after 60, protect these 5 areas, move them gently, strengthen them lightly, use them daily, respect pain, and do not let stiffness quietly choose the size of your world.